Hey, welcome to Financial Revelations. I am David Safransky, your host for today. And in an unusual presentation, I'm wearing a t-shirt over my golf shirt today. I don't know if you could see that or not. I think you could see it. You could see that, right? I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. That's a joke. I am going to tell you who to vote for today. But before we get to that, every Thursday morning where I can't talk politics, I got yelled at a couple of weeks ago. Not yelled at, but they just said, "Hey, easy, cowboy." WCRF 103.3 in Cleveland every Thursday morning from 8 to 9. That'll be tomorrow, 8 to 9. And you could use the Moody app. Moody Radio has an app where you could get that. You could listen no matter where you're at. It's got a big signal. It's all over. But I know that we have people that listen all over the world to that station because people grew up on Moody Radio in Cleveland. The Cleveland station is one of the biggest stations in the Moody Radio network. And it's been around, I think, the longest outside of Chicago. So a lot of history there. A lot of kids grew up listening to like the cartoons on Saturday morning that they would have. A lot of people remember that. So they move away, they grow up, they move away, and they still listen because they love the preaching and the teaching, and they love Thursday mornings on WCRF. So listen in on Thursdays, and you can call here if you want to, 800-344-2534 if you have a question. This is all going to be scrolling below me, of course, and Corey at EPSF, K-O-R-Y at EPSF. If you want to email in a question or a comment, or you want to meet with us, we do meet with a lot of people. So you could do that if you want to. You don't have to. You could just listen to the podcast, which I love. I love doing the podcast. So we have an Amazon trip coming in March of 2025. I will be on that trip if you'd like to go. I am going to avoid all people for a short period of time on the trip. When we're on the boat from Manaus, the big city of Manaus, to Maués, where our church is at, they do have Starlinks on these boats, so you can get internet on them now. We take a Starlink with us. I'll be taking my Starlink Mini with me, just to make sure that we always have internet if we need it. But for a short period of time on that boat, I just disappear and lay in a hammock and look at the stars. So you'll love that part of it. You can go to nativosusa.org to find out more, to donate, to do all those things if you so wish. nativosusa.org, also running down here. And for a special week, it's 6 days away. So we're 6 days away from the presidential election. And no matter who you're voting for, you've got to admit it'll be nice when it's over. And of course, a little less than half of the country is going to be disappointed by the outcome, and that's okay. But Corey is going to put on the scroller, vote Trump. Vote Trump. So some of my friends in Brazil listen, and they said, "Hey, could Corey put on subtitles?" I don't know. Could you do that in Portuguese, in Brazilian Portuguese, Corey? We're going to find out. Corey's really good at this stuff, so we're going to find out. So this is for Emmanuel in Maués. His English is more or less. Mais or menos is English, which usually means less. So, excuse me, my Portuguese is even less than that. So he's trying hard. I am going to start learning Portuguese. I'm going to do it. I've been to Brazil now, I don't know how many times, a lot. Mainly on missions trips. I pay for the trips myself. Nobody pays for my trips. I pay for them. And when my wife goes, we pay for our trips. We're not supported by anybody. We've done. God has blessed us immensely, so we're able to not only, we fund our trips, but we donate to send other people too that can't afford to pay, that would like to go. So people in missions, church people, pastors don't make a lot of money. For every Joel Osteen there is out there, there's 10,000 pastors who are scraping by. And we want to see people go. We want to get the word out. So we want to take people. It's not, sometimes mission trips are the moneymaker. Though we know people that have gone to Haiti that have paid $15,000 to go. Well, that's the fundraiser. We want to make the trip as affordable as possible so people can go, and then if they decide to leave money there or tell other people about it, we're getting exposure. And we set up nativosusa.org to also create some exposure. So that's why we do it. So 6 days until the presidential election. I'm voting for a felon. That was a trumped-up charge, of course. Now we know that these prosecutors were meeting with the White House in advance of the charges. It was all planned. When Donald Trump ran for president in 2016, they were drawing up articles of impeachment before he was even inaugurated. And that was all on bogus Russian allegations that turned out to be lies. They're all lies. The government's own Justice Department said they should have never brought charges on that. It was stupid. And people like Adam Schiff went on TV for months and months and months and months and lied about it. They will never be held accountable. Nothing is going to happen to them. And so in recent events, so remember, we're 6 days out. In 2016, we were called deplorables. Then we were called Nazis, and now we're called garbage. I was going to see if Corey could superimpose a garbage bag with my face on it, because I guess I'm garbage now, according to Joe Biden yesterday. This is what they think of you and me. This is what they think of us. They think we're garbage. And I'll tell you what I am, okay? Just in case you guys don't know, because I've done this podcast for a while. Many of you who listen, and we have people that listen all over the world. It's really kind of extraordinary where people are listening from. Guam, people are listening in Guam. People are listening in Europe. People are listening in Brazil. I put this out on Facebook, and I put it out on Twitter, and it also goes out on the streaming services, so people get notified when there's a new episode. But you know what I am? I'm a veteran, for one thing. I spent 10 years in the Army. They paid for my college. I loved the Army. It was an awesome experience for me. I started going back to church. I found Jesus in basic training because the drill sergeant said, well, it's Sunday, and we have to let you go to church if you want to, but if you don't want to go to church, you got to stay here and clean the barracks. I'm like, well, Mom didn't raise an idiot. I'm going to church. And I was raised Catholic, but I wasn't a very good Catholic. And so I went to a non-denominational service. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I was supposed to be there. I couldn't explain it. I didn't know how to process it. I went for a couple of weeks, and then I spoke to the pastor, who was a captain, and he said, look, the Lord is leading you down a path. Walk the path. And so that's where it started for me. I'm a husband. I've been married for since 1992. I've been married. So 32 years I've been married. I'm a business owner. I've owned this business for a long time. It's successful. We've employed people. Corey's worked here for almost 20 years. 20. Corey knows where everybody's buried, so I have to really take care of Corey. I'm a Christian. I'm a believer. I'm a taxpayer. A gun owner. I think every American should own a gun if you're going to be responsible with it. I'm the president of a church. I'm a mission-minded American. We give to a lot of causes here. We do. We've supported a lot of things here locally, and especially in the Right to Life area. And I love this group called Love Inc. of Lorain County, because when people come to our church with a need, they kind of vet them. They make sure that it's legit and not for drug use, or if somebody says, I need my electric bill paid, they find a way to get their electric bill paid, but they make sure it's the electric bill that's getting paid. One of the things that we do for some of our clients is we manage family relationships, especially for athletes and entertainers. And I tell them, look, I will be the bad guy. I don't mind. And so people will call and say, hey, by the way, Joe said you're going to pay my electric bill. I said, okay, send me the bill. And they're like, no, I just want the cash. That's not how it works. And that's usually when I get called a name and get hung up on, because it was never going to pay the electric bill. And Loving makes sure the electric bill gets paid, and they take care of people. So if there's kids that need clothes and a place to stay, and food. They're going to find these things. They have relationships in the community. So we support those things, but we also support missions because in the book of Matthew, it says, now go out and tell the world. It's the mission verse in Matthew 28. And we believe strongly in that. And we found a relationship in Brazil where they're the real deal. That's all I could say. I give my money there. They give me a detailed report of where all the money gets spent every time we go on a trip. And I go there and I see how they live. And I know that they're not squandering our money. And that's very important to me. And they have accountability. And I've always believed that if you want credibility, you got to have accountability. If I don't know where the money's going, and if it's a one-man show, I'm not interested because there's too much. There's just too much. There's a battle going on, and for our time, effort, money, and things like that, and there's just the devil is active, especially in these places where we're serving, and I need accountability, and so. When we went last time, we talked to the Pastor Marcos about accountability and being on the board and having a board and people that could say, you know what, this is not a good idea. So they have that accountability. There's just too much opportunity for wrongdoing there, and we don't want to be part of that. We want to see accountability. We have that. I feel 100% confident in Marcos and the church there. So. I want you to vote. Now, a lot of people have already voted. I want you to vote for Donald Trump. That's my preference because I think this is a vote for America because we're not garbage. We're not deplorable. We're not Nazis because we want to secure the border. That's not what that is. We're Americans, and we care about this country. So no matter what happens next Tuesday, and I believe that we're going to know that Donald Trump won Tuesday night. It's going to be a minor landslide. But if I'm wrong, no matter what happens, if we don't know Tuesday night, there's some things that are very important to us. They're very important to me, so I know they're important to you because we are alike. Oh, by the way, I'm a dad, too. I'm about to be a grandpa in February. We're very excited about that. My wife has bought so much stuff for this baby, they're not going to need anything until they're like 18. A little girl coming. We don't have. They won't tell us the name because they don't want my opinion. I'm thoroughly convinced that's why they're not telling us. Yes, and that's a wise decision, by the way. I like this. I would have been mad in the past, but I can't. There's things that I can't control, and I'm not going to try. So, no matter what happens Tuesday, we obey the law. Okay, we obey the law. That is who we are. We're not garbage, we're not deplorable, we're not Nazis, we're not communists, we're not people of violence. Okay, now if you bring me violence, that's a different story, but we're not going to be violent. We're going to obey the law. We're going to avoid violence or threatening language or actions. We're, the left, I am convinced, this is my personal opinion, that when they say things like Donald Trump must be stopped, they're talking to an element of the left that takes them literally. And that's why you've had at least, that we know of, 2 assassination attempts where he almost got shot in the head and somebody else fired off a round at him from the bushes at a golf course. No matter what they tell you, they're trying to encourage somebody to stop him. He's an existential threat, they say. No, he's not. That is such bullcrap. And they're full of it. And so they're trying to get somebody, and then they'll say, I can't believe this happened. And they haven't stopped. In fact, Kamala Harris has ramped up the rhetoric in the last week because they're losing. I want you to stay calm, all right? Nothing has ever been solved in panic. And one of the things that I've learned over the years of managing money and watching markets go up and down and the vagaries of the stock market is panic is the last thing that you need to do. I have a way of keeping my heart rate and blood pressure pretty even, no matter how bad it's looking on my television screens in the other room, because there's opportunity in everything. So I want you to stay calm. Our country is still the strongest. For one thing, we're strong. This is a strong country. And it's the strongest country in the history of the world. There's never been a country that has done what we've done in the time that we've done it, as well as we've done it, with all the ancillary things that go on in 2020, the riots and all that. We still came out ahead. Now, there are communities that are suffering because of those things, but we will recover from anything that happens. And so if you're not a Donald Trump supporter and you're watching this, when Donald Trump wins, you're going to be okay. He's not coming for you. I heard somebody say on MSNBC or CNN that there's going to be internment camps. Well, that is stupid talk. And that is a stupid person who said that. And that's a person that's trying to gin up some crazy on the left who say, well, I don't want to go to an internment camp. I'm gonna do something dramatic. And that's the kind of rhetoric that's going. There's going to be no internment camps. There's no internment camps. That's stupid. I want you to pray. I want you to pray for everybody in the nation. I want you to pray for a Trump victory. I want you to pray that the people that would look at a Trump victory as internment camps, they find the light. You know, they're Americans too. They have a different opinion, but they're also Americans, and we need to protect them and be wise and kind whenever possible. And it's possible. I want you to vote. You know, you're not voting for the lesser of two evils. You're not, if you're voting for Trump. I want you to be confident in your vote. Trump is a good choice. And I want you to believe it, and I want you to own it. This is a good choice you're making, and we've never once in the history of our country elected the perfect president. Never once. All people are fallible. We're fallible. I'm fallible. Okay, I do dumb things. You know, if you've listened to the radio, I say some dumb things every once in a while too. They're usually pretty funny, but we're fallible people, and both of these candidates are very fallible people also. And we kind of put them on a pedestal and expect perfection. Well, that's not possible. I've long felt that the gravity of the presidency, the weight of the choices that they have to make would mellow Trump. And I think you've seen a lot of that in this election cycle. He's a different person than he was 8 years ago when he came down that golden escalator. There's a lot of big, weighty decisions that people make when they're the president. People's lives, in a very real, literal sense, are in their hands. You know, the troops that we send into harm's way. Now, I know I was a soldier. I accepted that responsibility. I didn't get in a draft. I joined. I really joined to pay for college. And when I got there, I realized, wow, I love this. I am good. It was the first thing that I was really good at, that I excelled at beyond my wildest dreams. And I met people who were the same as me. They needed a success. The United States Army gave it to them, and their lives, I took all the things, the discipline, the attention to detail, all the things that I learned in the Army, except for blowing stuff up, driving tanks, and killing people, I brought that in the private sector, and I use it here. And so the things that you see in me, I learned in basic training and in the Army and from leaders of men. I learned other leadership qualities too in other places, but that was really the genesis of it. Those were the foundational building blocks of my leadership life. It happened in the Army, and I will be forever grateful to those people for building into me. And I've taken it seriously because I build into other people. I mentor people. I sponsor people in a 12-step program. These things are very important to me, and that's part of being an American. It's part of my philosophy is to not leave it on the table. I want to give it back. So whether it's here or in Brazil, digging wells, people in church, youth that come to me for, there's a few younger guys that I counsel from time to time, older adults that I do too. So I want you to think that way of giving back. I'm writing a book called The Sin of Retirement. It's not really a sin, but the way the world sells retirement is. Okay, it doesn't. You could leave. Like, there are some jobs, like a pilot, they got to leave at a certain age. You don't have a choice, so you're gonna retire. What do you do then? One, you got to have a plan, and you got to build back. You build into people. You don't take all that time, talent, wisdom, and effort that people built into you and just leave it. You got to give it back to somebody else. That's what we're supposed to do. And my book is based on a biblical principle of retirement for priests in the temple. And I'll go into more of that as we get that book out. I'm hoping it's going to be out in January. In fact, I know it is. It's going to be published on Amazon, so you can get a copy anytime. So I want you to vote. We're 6 days out. I want you to vote Trump. I want you to believe in it. I want you to own it. I don't want you to be ashamed of it. It's a great choice. He's been president before. We saw what he did last time, and he's going to be even better this time because he's going to be more ready. I am David Safransky, a real American, a true red-blooded patriot, voting for a felon, and the voice you can trust.